More in the Liquid Dew of Youth. Smokepit Fairytales, Part 5. Chapter 14. Blood on the Bulkhead. Thatch sat in his cabin on the shuttle, brooding. He wasn't looking forward to the time away from Simum, although he didn't know if she'd even want to see him when she regained consciousness. He hoped that he might be able to get back to Mars before she was released from the hospital. That would be close. Although naval vessels had engines strong enough to push across the solar system in a matter of minutes, civilian transports weren't large enough to house engines with that kind of output. Courier missions were almost always done via the civilian space lines. The government couldn't afford to send a battleship across creation just to deliver a few files. Thatch rested his head back against the bench. He had another 30 hours until he even got to Avalon. He did appreciate how there was a small cabin for each passenger, instead of cramming everyone into undersized seats like cattle, like they did on planes on Mars. He thought about what he might say to Simum when he got back, if she even granted him an audience. Thatch swore, and blamed himself for Simum's action. If he never said the rash things he had to her, she wouldn't have had that ammo to use against him. Perhaps, he figured, if he had just left her alone, and not been selfish, trying to keep her in his life, he wouldn't have been able to set her off like that. Thatch's mind wandered back to their time at Castle, and how many times Simum had slighted him. How many times he was left alone in the darkness to simmer in the hot oils of pain and despair, with only a cigarette as a friend. He shuddered the thoughts away with a quick jerk to the neck. He told himself that if he loved her, if he honestly cared about her, that he couldn't hold the past against her. She could take him higher than any spacecraft ever could with just the slightest touch, and drag him past the ice caverns Satan rots in hell with a glance. His mind was being won over, but the ants in his twisting guts were not happy. They were angry, but they were getting smarter. They knew they couldn't take his body by force. They decided to beat the system at its own game. By virtue of Thatch's position in his body's government, the ants couldn't overpower him. They went out and gathered the rest of his emotions and organs and rallied. The ants got a new leader. He was young, tanned, charismatic, and articulate. He was beautiful with his $1,000 haircut, and spoke with a voice that the ants couldn't get away from. When the new leader ant debated Thatch's mind, Thatch was sick, unshaven, and sweating over shifty eyes. The leader ant only had to ask the people, "Are we any better off than we were a year ago?" And the voters cast their ballot for the new young ant. Thatch tried to distract himself from the physical pain he was in, from Simum's anger towards him. He resented that Simum would rather kill herself than actually sit down and talk about the problems that were between them. He flipped through the internet browser on his phone.
At least the transport has Wi-Fi, albeit slow,
he thought to himself. He scrolled past a post about roast beef and honey ham recipes for Christmas and realized he hadn't eaten since before the fight with Simum. There was food that could be ordered, but he wasn't in the mood to eat. He got up and went to the cabin's restroom. It was small and unmaneuverable, but it did its job. He turned on the faucet and splashed water on his face. As he dried off with the towel left by the sink, he heard voices coming from the other cabin. At first, he was indifferent. Then he recognized Ramsey and Gemery.
I wonder what those fucking idiots are talking about.
Thatch put his ear to the bulkhead to better hear what they were saying.
So are we going to do this here or when we get to Avalon?
Gemery asked.
After the embassy, it'll be easier, and those documents probably do actually need to be delivered,
Ramsey replied.
How are you thinking about doing it?
Thatch heard Ramsey pace around the cabin.
I have a few ideas. The guy's an alcoholic, so I figure we wait around the hotel lobby and wait for him to go to the bar. Then, when he's good and drunk, we'll hire some hooker to go in and flirt with him and get him outside. We'll have a take him on a walk, and then they might run into some muggers and get stabbed to death. That way, when they find him with a prostitute, they won't look too deep into it. We'll be halfway back to Mars before their bodies are even found.
Thatch's skin crawled.
They're gonna try to kill me.
Thatch admitted that Ramsey might have been smarter than he'd given him credit for.
And those Avalon girls can drink. Hell, maybe we'll get lucky and we'll get a chick who can get him to drink until he passes out, and we can get driven without fire.
Thatch rolled his eyes. There wasn't a hooker alive that could outdrink him.
Whatever we do, I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, guy's a turd.
Nah, it's not only that. I have personal issues with him. Well, you know that girl, Simum, right? Sergeant Nazik?
Yeah? What about her?
Well, back at Castle, I was trying to have a relationship with her, and Allensworth was always getting in the way. Like this one time, her and him had a fight, and he told her some stuff that made her mad, right? And she calls me, and we talk the next day, and we go down to St. Cupertino and go on this day cruise. We dance and have a good time, have a drink or two, but I don't normally drink, so as soon as I start to feel it, I go back to water. Anyway, that night rolls around, and we're back at the room, and she starts coming on to me hard. She grabs my dick, kisses me, and I have to push her off.
Why?
Because, man, it's against my religion. I've only had sex twice, and I've regretted it after each one. I want to be clean. My body's God's temple, and I don't want to soil it before marriage.
The new leader of the ants was taking this news too well. He told the ant people that this kind of revelation shouldn't shock them, and it's further proof that they need to galvanize their efforts to stay away from Simoom. Gemery continued.
So, I push her away and tell her that's not what I'm about. And she gets mad. She starts screaming and throwing things and tells me I'm not a real man, and she berates me. And I'm like, who would do that? So anyway, we get back to Castle, and she starts running straight back to Allensworth instead of trying to have a slow and honest relationship with me.
That lying piece of shit.
Thatch thought back about what Simoom told him.
What the fuck makes her think what she's doing is acceptable? Is she that immoral, or does she just not care? That snake.
Thatch argued with the new ant leader, who was showing the ants what he knew. And the ant people rallied behind him. Thatch tried to justify the pain. He told himself that all of that was in the past and behind them, and it only mattered how they were currently doing. The president ant reminded the people that Simoom was currently in the hospital because she'd rather sever her arm than admit guilt and sit down and work things out like a rational human being. Thatch got tired of the new president ant. This was his body, his feelings, and he wasn't going to let some imaginary ant dictate his emotions. Thatch told his side of the story to the ants, but they wouldn't accept leaving him in charge just because he loves her. Thatch waited until the president ant went to see the people. While he was campaigning to mend party lines and gain more supporters, he waved at the cheering crowds from the back of his convertible limousine. And right as the vehicle passed Elm Street, Thatch shot 4 rounds from the grassy knoll on the side, hitting the president ant twice in the head and twice in the body. The president ant's wife screamed and tried to grab his brain matter that was splattered across the car. Thatch made his exit and set it up to have the blame shifted on a worker at the schoolbook depository, and turned his attention back to Ramsey and Gemery in the other cabin.
Someone that would actually care about her instead of just using her for sex.
That and his friends are all scumbags. You know that Stockton girl?
Yeah.
I remember one night everyone was out drinking and she calls me nigger.
Mate, that is fucked up.
Yeah! So I'm ready to end this man's life. I'm just a bit upset we're not taking out his whole crew.
Either way, it'll be easier than that Hornigold shit.
What?
Yeah, but that was just locking a door and hooking up some canisters to the air supply. I wonder though why the general wanted us to bring back some tapes instead of destroying them.
Ramsey stopped pacing and sat down.
I don't know, man. But he keeps them in the safe in his office. Maybe he has them so that if he loses support, he can be the only one who shows them, and that'll give them power to rile people up, and they'll forget about whatever he's doing.
That, or if he has the footage of the attack, he can edit it and make it look like the Russians did it. That would justify going to total war.
Thatch analyzed what he'd heard them say.
Nah, this is bad. I need to get back to Mars quick.
People won't be able to say much for long though. After he gets rid of a few belligerent officers across the DoD, and a few senators, he'll have no one who will be able to oppose him.
Yeah. So are we gonna hang out in the cabin the whole trip?
Only if you don't want to go fuck with Allensworth.
I could do that.
Thatch held in a groan while he listened to the other two leave their room and knock on his door. Thatch made sure the pen in his pocket was still there, in case he needed a weapon, and thank God he was wearing heavy boots. He didn't have anything he might use in his luggage besides documents and his uniform. Sliding the door open, he looked over Ramsey and Gemery.
What do you two want?
He said with an irritated voice.
We're just making sure you're doing alright, sir.
Ramsey's buck-toothed gap smiled.
I'm fine.
Thatch gave them a flared eyebrow.
Well, we just wanted to make sure. We heard about Sergeant Nazik's hospital visit, and we didn't want you to sit here alone if you were upset or anything.
Did you two really come over here just to irritate me? Sergeant Nazik is the furthest thing from my mind right now.
He lied. Ramsey leaned on the threshold.
So what's up with you and the old girl anyway?
Thatch was about to tell them to fuck off and start planning a way to neutralize them quietly on the shuttle when the whole transport jumped.
What was that?
Gemery asked, having almost been thrown off their feet.
I don't know.
The transport shook again and stood still in space. The intercom buzzed alive, demanding their attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. You may have noticed the turbulence. We've come across an unidentified vessel of unknown origin. They fired across the front of the bridge and are demanding us to halt. They've assured us no harm will come to us if we're cooperative, and they're preparing to board us. Please remain in your cabins and hopeful that this will be over soon.
The speakers clicked out, and the screaming and crying of other passengers could be heard from the cabins.
Are we being attacked by pirates?
Yeah, I think so.
Thatch stepped into the corridor with the other two and closed the door behind him. Ramsey sneered.
This is great. Just what we need.
Thatch raised his eyebrows and tightened his lips.
Yeah. Do either of you two know where the bridge is?
Gemery pulled his head back.
Why?
I'm gonna go do something about this.
Like what? We don't have any weapons on us or anything to fight with.
The hatch on the far end of the passageway hissed open, and the pirates entered in a varied assortment of spacesuits and brightly colored uniforms. None of them had on any headwear. They seemed to be evenly split between humans and Virescent, all armed to the teeth. The cabin doors were all open, and frightened passengers were drugged to the dining hall. Thatch, Ramsey, and Gemery were no exception. When everyone was gathered, a tall man with sandy blonde hair in his 30s stood atop one of the tables. He had a tightly trimmed beard with a long mustache and was wearing a long blue coat over his spacesuit. Under several sashes, he was carrying pistols and daggers. He had a sword on his belt and a wide grin on his face.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
He almost sang with his chest puffed out.
I am Hornigold McCrinnan, captain of the corridor. We are very remorseful to be forced to interrupt your flight. However, last night we had a party, and in our drunkenness, we took all of our helmets, hats, and headgear, and we jettisoned it into space for a few laughs.
This guy can't be serious.
Thatch thought. Hornigold continued.
So I regret to inform you that we will be liberating you of anything that any of you might be wearing on your heads, and we would really hate to have to take your head with your hat. If you would be so kind, please be cooperative and we'll be on our way shortly.
His smile widened as he flung his arm in the air.
Now if you'll all please return to your cabins and retrieve what we've requested, we'll be out of your hair most prompt.
The pirates started escorting the passengers to the rooms. Thatch had no interest in interfering with them. He raised his hand and addressed Hornigold.
Excuse me, Captain?
Yes, sir. How may I help you?
Hornigold responded with a wide smile.
I'd like to have a conversation with you. I've never had any dealings with the men of the sea except for maybe a few barroom brawls and shady bars during port calls.
Port calls?
Hornigold ran his eyes over Thatch.
Your Navy.
Actually, I'm a Marine. Now, I don't want any trouble with you or your crew, but I am wondering how one might become a part. I've never seen any recruiting posters or anything like that.
We're an all-volunteer force.
Hornigold kept his grin.
We forge a life out of the reach of any government's hand. We're liberated from the politicians for whom we've broken our backs and given all but every cent from our wallets and drop of blood from our veins. We are free men who have the liberty to choose and chase our own wealth and adventure, and of course, we are always open to new prospects.
And what if I'd like to join?
Ramsey and Gemery snapped their heads towards Thatch in shock.
How interested exactly are you?
Well, I'd have to go back to Mars to settle a debt, but it'd only take a day and I could come find you after that.
Hornigold shook his head. His smile became a smirk.
I don't think that would work for us. You see, we can't have the government knowing where we are and what we're doing.
Well, I'm afraid I don't have too much of a future with that government. You see, I'm set to be executed when we reach Avalon.
Then why are you walking freely about the ship?
It's gonna be covert.
Thatch stated and grimaced at Ramsey and Gemery.
These two here are planning on murdering me because I have information that would lead to the removal and summary execution of General Perosky.
What? Hey, what?
Hornigold stroked his mustache.
Now that is interesting.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that your evasion of the U.S. Navy hasn't exactly been easy, but if Perosky were to
Thatch used his fingers to make quotations.
have an accident, Mars might fall into civil war and the Navy too busy fighting each other to hunt you. I would like to use you as an insurance policy for if I make it through and get off Mars alive. I'd like somewhere to be able to go.
Hornigold considered Thatch's offer.
That's tempting, but I still don't think I'd be able to trust you.
I have an idea that might work.
What's that?
You see these two here?
Thatch pointed to Ramsey and Gemery.
On top of being my future killers, they're also in the Commandant's Guard. Check their IDs.
Now wait a minute.
Shut up!
One of the pirates hit him in the back with the butt of his shotgun and dug Gemery's wallet out of his pocket. Then Ramsey's. He handed them over to his captain. Ramsey and Gemery were told to get on their knees by the pirates behind them. Hornigold fiddled through their cards.
Yes, they're who they say they are. But what about it?
Can I borrow one of your knives?
Hornigold was hesitant, but curious. He pulled an 8-inch dagger off his sash and handed it to Thatch. Thatch turned to Gemery while he patted the blade in his hand. Gemery's eyes watered. but he kept his bearing.
Gemery, you're a pretty big dude. How much time you spend in the gym?
At least 2 hours a day.
Gemery whispered, trying not to cry.
What do you think is the most important muscle in the human body?
Gemery looked away from Thatch and stared at the deck.
The heart. It gives me strength, allows me to have empathy, and it's where God lives.
Thatch squinted.
Okay. You know that I heard the entire conversation you two had right before this, right?
Thatch pointed the dagger back and forth between the two on their knees. Neither of them offered him an answer, keeping their eyes glued to the floor. Thatch ran the blade into Gemery's arms, severing his bicep tendons. Then, as he fell to the ground screaming, Thatch sliced his Achilles. All 4 tendons rolled up to their base with a snap. As Gemery cried and screamed for mercy, Thatch put his knee on Gemery's neck and dug the blade into his chest until he found Gemery's heart and ripped it out. He looked to Ramsey, who was in a pool of his own piss, and sliced open the arteries in his neck. After he bled out, Thatch nailed Gemery's heart to the bulkhead with the dagger. He looked back at Hornigold.
Now, shall we discuss business?
That is my sound check.
All right, how we sounding? Oh, we are way low. Turn that shit up. And hit the noise gate. All right. How we sounding? Okay. All right.
That way, when they find him, the prostitute that way.
What are we on? Chapter 14? Fuck.
That any God fucking cannot stutter. I can't fucking stutter. Why am I fucking stuttering? Ah!
No! That's 15. I glanced ahead at the chapter title of 15.
Those Avalon girls can drink. Hell, maybe we'll get lucky and we'll get a shit. Scratchy throat.
Spiders! Hey, what happens when you die?
I hate my neighbors. Okay, we're going to take a quick break and you're going to hear me ramble about my shithead neighbors right now. No, you're not. Okay. Sorry. Trying. Hopefully this doesn't carry. All right, 14. Bloodied on the bulkhead.
Blood on the bulkhead. It's a good place for it. It was boring. Needed decoration.
Ah, God, no! Why am I putting a fucking word where it's not supposed to fucking be at?
That line was beyond a tongue twister.
All right.
Remember the fucking words, Matt. Remember them!
Random noise. Distant motor. Easing away now. Resume.
Shit!
Yeah. I'm just gonna start this whole fucking thing over. Cracking my knuckles. That means the next take is a serious take. Serious take.
Yeah. Guy's a turd. Yeah. Guy's a turd.
That's that. So serious. Fuck.
Like what? We don't have weapons on us or anything to fight with. Clearly, can you not hear from my Cockney Essex accent? We do not have a license for the weapons on this plane. I don't fucking know. There's not any snakes on here either.
Whatever we do, I'm looking... balls.
Although naval vessels had engines strong enough to push across the solar system in a matter of minutes, civilian transports weren't large... Transports? Oh, fuck me. That's what happens when you make your transmasked boyfriend come. Yeah, fucking squirts. Alright.
God, glasses suck. Don't get old, fucker.
There were just so many ons in that sentence. It literally went on and on.
Why am I adding words? Motherfucker!
Yeah. Oh, my favorite thing to do is like putting that. Yeah. For all the practice Chuck had, and all the good that had done.
Well, back at Castle, I was trying to have a relationship with her, and Allensworth, he was always in the way. Nope, ad-lib that.
All the practice Chuck had no impact on his reading tonight. For all the good that had done. That's my favorite. You can just delete them both, honestly, and it doesn't change the meaning of the sentence. You don't need the word that almost ever.
And she calls me, and we talk, and the next day... God, why can't I fucking get that?
All right.
I'm going to run through that a few times. Not because I'm racist.
Meandering tonight.
Fuck that up again! Shit!
Awesome death scene. This is bullshit. Alright.
This is going to be a storm for the blooper reel, but here is me doing getting stab noises. So Christopher Lee apparently said it's a massive exhale when a man is stabbed, so I'll do some various takes.
Okay, just so you know, I got a glass of ice water and a hot cup of double bergamot Earl Grey loaded up with honey, and I just spilt it like all down my legs, and my knees are stickier than tie hookers. So you're really gonna have some oomph in this. Oh, now my tour de force screams, getting stabbed to death.
We are free men who, God, of course, I fuck up on the fucking one where I'm supposed to emphasize a fucking word.
That wasn't a take, that was me coughing.
I've read Hamlet. they're reading Hamlet to each other.
Gotta be careful not to make myself throw up. My gag reflex is too strong.
I'm upsetting the puppies.
God fucking no.
Thatch made his exit and set it up to have the blame shifted on a worker ant at the school. Oh, fuck. At the worker ant. This is terrible anyway.